Live from Darlington, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the virtual Darlington Raceway. This is qualifying race number 1 for the Retro 500. Let's go trackside and take a look at your podium starting grid, and Chad Peterson will bring us to the green flag this evening, his 31-123 best the ball, and he'll be alongside by Nathan Jurgensen in second. Pace truck already down to the safety of pit road. Happy that you're with us on Podium as we say, let's go qualifying at Darlington.
In practice, we have a caution. Holy cow, that is... I believe that is Logan Helton that was spun out across the field. Caution's out early.
Let's take a look with S.E. Martin a little bit further back from the incident with Brady. And that would be your caution. That was a huge impact, and look out as he comes up in front of traffic and just leaves enough room for some drivers to sneak through on the high side. Green flag flies. We're back underway.
Of course, Garrett Maines, again, he's probably just feeling him out. He probably won't try anything. We got about 100 laps to go, so I don't think he's going to try anything drastic just yet. But when it gets to crunch time, I figure that number 2 car is going to be making some moves. As he heads down to 1 and 2, and just looks like he lost it. Looked like he might have turned a little bit much. Took out. Can't see who that was. He clipped all the way by. Have to see if he has some damage that might affect him later in the race. But it seems like he'll be able to keep chugging along without taking the quick repair.
And just looking through the field, I mean, you've got other drivers up big. Anthony Burrows has been a little bit quiet, but he's down in a transfer position after starting 16th. He's in 8th, just behind all of this scrapping inside of the top 5. So plenty going on throughout the field. If he was trying to do the opposite here, right, to give a little bit of extra room, but yeah, I don't know what else to say, but you got to be able to do better than that. Cody Dutton could be the surprise here. We were talking about it earlier, and there are 2 cars that look like this. That is not Dutton that we're on board with. That's Kevin Champagne back in P6. Not to get him confused, but Dutton's the question mark here. I wonder what he can do late as Burrows tried to pass low. Champagne countered high, but man, did he have a stanky leg in turn 1. What a catch. Roswell, Harlow's got the run, and yeah, right there. Left your quarter panel. You're not going to get away with that one, and it was a very lazy spin. He did what he should have, locked it up, prevented himself from getting into the inside wall. It certainly could have been a lot worse, but a tough break for both of those guys who were out of the picture and really just digging hard. Garrett Maines holding a long time, and he is going to drop significant positions on the race off of pit road. How about Dutton, Theodore, Jurgensen, and Burrows all getting out ahead of him?
These 2 cars duke it out in front of him and said, oh, I might be able to take both these spots. Forget 10th. I might be able to get 9th also.
Oh, and it's all going to fall apart. Huge wreck off of turn 2. 4 cars involved, and it is calamity on the bubble. Again, Mario Miranda feeling the pressure, makes a mistake, and from 9th position, overdrives turn 2, hits the fence, Dylan, and there was nothing that Mills and company could do to avoid him. You know how much Ham has been struggling off of turn 2, and he's really slow here. Looks like Harlow thinks high, then Ham pulls up. He tries to go low, and just that 85 was kind of right in the middle of everything, and got run over by the 65, who couldn't decipher what that car wanted to do.
And a big restart for Dutton there. He gets an 0.8 of a second lead, about 0.7 of a second now.
Oh, Garrett Maines! Garrett Maines got hit, and Nathan Jurgensen spins. Caution is out. This race is over. Zimmerman spins from 11th. Who's the top 10? Came in late, dominant on the restarts, and Cody Dutton is qualifying race number 1 winner at Darlington Raceway, easily punching his ticket to the Retro 500. Cody Dutton gets the checkered flag again. This race finishes under the yellow flag, but all the drivers on your screen are in to the Retro 500. It includes your winner Dutton, John Theodore, and Garrett Maines on the podium. We'll talk with all of them in just a moment. Ahead of Anthony Burrows 4th and Garrett Conrath in 5th. Logan Helton comes home P6. Daniel Hendry is 7th with Colton Zimmer in 8th. Mario Morena in the number 9 spot. And with that late race drama, Brandon Zimmerman, the final golden ticket in P10. We are back for qualifying race number 2 next Wednesday night here from Darlington. That race and every race on the road to the Retro 500 can be found exclusively here on Podium Esports. Till next time, good night from Darlington. Live tonight from the virtual Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to qualifying race number 2 for the Podium Retro 500. So happy that you're spending another Wednesday evening with us here on Podium Esports. Alongside Terry Radford, my name is Evan Pasoko. We're accompanied by our producer downstairs, Ryan Bauer, as always using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. So it is week number 2 in qualifying for the Podium Retro 500. And Terry, last week we saw our first 10 drivers qualify into the main event next month. Tonight we do the same thing. Maybe less question marks about how this will play out. We can kind of use last week as a crutch and see how these drivers will attack a relatively short race. But the one thing I learned, at least, was that race was chaotic. We had at least 3 drivers drop out of transfer positions in the last 25-30 laps of the race. So the one thing that will always be true is these old school stock cars very tricky here at Darlington.
These stock cars are very tricky here, and watching practice over the time, you see them slipping and sliding. The sunlight's beating down on this racetrack, and you have some hard charger guys going for 10 positions tonight to advance to that next round. It's going to be amazing to watch with you, Evan.
Mistakes were critical, and we'll be following those as well, but let's talk more about Darlington. And in reality, it's a racetrack that really needs no introduction, but we talk about it as one of the oldest tracks on the calendar, opened back in 1950 with the running of NASCAR Southern 500, and that unique egg-shaped 1.36 mile speedway. Turns 1 and 2 much wider and therefore a lot faster than you have down in 3 and 4. 3 and 4 pinched off because of that minnow pond down in that corner, which still exists to this day. And I think it's racetracks like this that just make racing, right? It's not a cookie cutter. It is so extremely unique, Terry, and that's really the big challenge when you race at a place like this.
It's a huge challenge when you race at a place like this. 2 distinctive corners, and the corners present the biggest challenges. Going into turns 1 and 2, you're able to kind of hold the throttle just a little bit more, get through the center of the corner better. But when you get down into turns 3 and 4, you have to let off of it. You have to really drive that car. And these old retro stock cars are going to be the biggest challenge tonight. But going through our track facts here, we are in Darlington, South Carolina. It was opened in 1950. 1.36 miles or 2.19 kilometers. Turns 1 and 2s banked at 25 degrees. Turns 3 and 4, 23 degrees. Front stretch has 3 degrees of banking, and the back stretch is at 2% banking.
Want to mention a sprint race as well, Terry. That's the key, right? So we're qualifying for a 500-mile race. Tonight is a very different challenge.
Yeah, tonight is a very different challenge. It's qualifying race. It's 123 laps. It only goes to 163.2 miles. Top 10 finishers advance to the main. 5 sets of tires in that pit lane. Custom fix setups and 1 fast repair is the big crucial challenge for these guys tonight.
And we're looking forward to this one. Yes, 167 miles is very different than the 500-miler we'll see next month in the Retro 500. But as I mentioned last week in qualified race number 1, and you saw some of the highlights on it there before we came live this afternoon, was that drivers who were in the top 10, top 5 even for much of the night, got caught on a pit cycle, found themselves on the back foot, even got caught fighting for, say, 7th and 8th position, both spots that would be in the show, got a little bit greedy, wrecked out. Now, of course, if anybody who raced in qualifying number 1 and didn't make the show still wants to get in, they can compete here tonight. That's the same this evening. If you don't qualify, you can roll over and try it again the next week through. But I certainly know that these drivers would really enjoy a couple of weeks off, Terry, not having to worry about it, practicing some long runs with these race cars if they can just get the job done here tonight. And it is also a little bit of an incentive to finish well in these qualifiers if you are in the top 10, because your finishing position in this will determine starting position for the Retro 500. That race will not have its own Q session. The grid from that race is a direct result of the finishing order in these qualifiers. So tonight's winner can find themselves on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, and like you talked about, people being greedy. If you're in the top 10, you know, it's so hard to tell these drivers to just calm down. You're already in the show, but you're a racer, and racers want to get up there and get on the jagged edge, and Darlington's the perfect place to do it. These drivers are out here fighting, and they're hungry to get into this main show.
That is the critical part. And, you know, I don't know if track position is that critical in a 500-mile race. If you've got a good race car, you'll be able to figure that out. I think the biggest thing where track position can help is I'd rather not start mid-pack in the Retro 500, because that's where things could get a little bit messy. So maybe starting towards the very front or even towards the rear could be a helper. We should also note that quick repair available tonight. Several drivers had to fall back on that last week, and we'll see if that's a factor here this afternoon. Qualified is complete from Darlington. Let's go trackside and take a look at your Podium Esports starting grid. And Andrew Navarro will bring us to the green flag this evening. His 31.103, good enough for pole. A heavy hitter, though, alongside in Boyd Hogan. Blake McCandless, Chad Peterson will double up on row number 2 with TJ Bursky and Cole Dutton Terry rounding out our top 6.
You got Patrick Langley sitting there in the 7th place position. He's going to be joined with Warren Keith, Zachary Mertz, and Joshua Lee is going to take the next row. Forrest Scott and Jake Ham is going to round out that position as well.
Ham, somebody else tried to get in last week, trying again here this afternoon. Brian Shriver and Jacob Baumann get a start through the top 14, along with Kieran Church and Aaron McMorrin. That is it for qualifiers, but a lot of provisionals led by Sean Butler and Gary Sexton on row 9.
Yeah, and Matthew Stalncut, he goes out there in row 10, joined outside of Roswell Harwell. I don't believe that Verwin did a qualifying lap, nor did he get in. But then you got David Barnes and Jason Cox, our code that comes in the 22nd position.
And that's a look top to bottom at your starting grid. Pretty on par with qualifier 1 as we take a look at the weather conditions here in virtual Darlington, South Carolina. 78 degrees Fahrenheit with the track temp, the big thing, 113. Partly cloudy conditions could aid that, Terry, if we get a little bit of shade and cool things down. But, I mean, you've already mentioned it a few times, slipping and sliding. And that track temp's only going to make it a lot harder for these drivers to find grip and keep grip in these tires.
It's going to take a lot out here. I mean, you said 113 degrees, and these drivers are praying for that cloud cover. The moment it starts to just get a little bit overcast on this track, you start to gain a little bit more grip, but that gains confidence. There's a flip side to it as well. If they gain grip, they gain confidence, and it doesn't take a lot to make a mistake here at Darlington.
It is that fine line that you're going to have to dance for all of the 123 laps this afternoon, and it is going to be a good one. Very similar field size to what we saw last week. I think we had 24, 25, but that one 23 this evening. So unlike the 500, Terry, we're not going to be dealing with a very busy racetrack. These drivers, I think, are going to have plenty of room, if they so choose, to space out a little bit, to be able to work on the long runs. But we'll see just how patient they can be. You talk about that age-old race car driver complex, where sometimes doing the smartest thing on paper, not always the thing you do when you're doing about 180 miles an hour behind the wheel.
Yeah, and you like you said, it's a lot of racetrack for them to get around, and there's not a lot in here. So the fast guys always rise to the top. Macho Man Randy Savage says the cream rises to the top. Well, tonight I think it's going to be no different. The cream will rise to the top, and this track is going to be the cream of them all because this is an amazing race.
And we are ready to go racing on a Wednesday evening. The pace truck down to the safety of the pit lane. As always, we're happy that you're with us on Podium Esports. The field is in the hands of Andrew Navarro for qualifying race number 2. We say, let's go racing at Darlington. Oh, and trouble behind. Caution flag early in this race, and several drivers collected in turns 3 and 4. I was about to say, pretty good start to this race, but you saw the challenge down the back straightaway, and I believe it was Cole Dutton who got the chrome horn early. Let's take a second look. Yeah, just a little bit too much. I think that was Patrick Langley who went into turn number 3 behind him. You could see the side-by-side up the road. TJ Bursky had just made a move underneath Blake McCandless, trying to fight for 4th position, and it looked like Dutton tried to follow him through on the bottom. This is the perspective from behind, as trying to get through this one was Hammond, number 2, and you can see right into it. And the onboard shot, Terry, if somebody hasn't raced at Darlington, might not understand. It looks like he drove right into that thing. We talk about a 3 and 4 much tighter. Once you commit to that corner, you can't just simply undercut the accident like that. And I think that's why so many drivers behind the initial contact got caught up in this.
Yeah, this is a hard track to avoid any type of melee. I mean, if something happens like we saw right there, you talked a little bit earlier in the stream that you don't want to start in the back, but passing at a premium, the fast guys get up there just a little too, maybe a little too aggressive too early. But, I mean, it is the Retro 500. You are the lady in black. Things are going to happen, and hey, it is what it is.
And a tricky start. We questioned would there be patience. Interesting enough to mention that the contact did come from 2 drivers that were both in a transfer position. We had plenty of fireworks last week in qualifier number 1. Some drivers in transfer positions making contact like you just saw. Other times, drivers would just have a self-spin. We saw a handful of those incidents, so I'm expecting a couple of them this afternoon as well. And then also drama with a race-ending caution flag last week where there was contact between the 2 drivers for the bubble position. The driver who gained an advantage from that contact was given an end-of-the-longest line penalty for race control for avoidable contact, and that changed who was in and who was out. So that is a critical point to note. Things could get a little bit messy here from Darlington. I see a couple of drivers trickling down pit road. Looks like Langley, Dutton, Butler, Sexton, Hammond, Emeritus all decided to come down to the pit lane this last time through. I mentioned that one quick repair, Terry. That does not necessarily mean that everybody is going to take the quick repair. However, with only one available, if you get through that one with just a little bit of damage, might not be the worst idea to just sit with it, to just ride with it, because you would really hate to have 10-20 seconds of damage out there, burn your quick repair for that, and then that race car get absolutely junked later this afternoon, and then you don't have the quick repair available. So don't be shocked if a couple of drivers towards the rear run with a little bit of damage, full well knowing it's going to affect their speed a little bit. However, the obvious choice there is to save the quick repair for when you absolutely need to use it.
Well, in this track right here presents such a great opportunity. Aerodynamics really don't mean much when you come into a place like this. If you have a little bit of a roughed up fender or just a little bit of a quarter panel gone, you're still going to be okay. You might be off maybe a 1/10, 2/10 of a second, but nothing drastic, especially in these corners, long sweeping corners. You're going to get the run off if you get the gas just right. You still have to be technical. My biggest thing is the tires. Don't burn those tires up. Don't take tires when you don't need them. For the people who got in that incident and spun, it's crucial to take them. But like you said, don't use that fast repair just yet. You have a long way to go.
Long way to go. Lights out on top of the iRacing official pace truck. A restart will come next time by with 118 laps to go. So plenty of racing still this afternoon from virtual Darlington Raceway. Towards the front of the field, no huge movers, but in the mid-pack, some drivers really taking advantage of that accident. Somebody like a Roswell Harlow, who avoided the incident, is now plus 10. He started in 20th. He's up to the 10th position. David Barnes, also big advantage, started 21st, but by avoiding the accident, he's been able to move his way up to position number 12. We'll see how this one shakes out, and following suit with the 1987 NASCAR rules, restarts this evening are single file. Pace car down and in. Andrew Navarro can restart when he wants. He's on the loud pedal. Green flag is back in the air. For the second consecutive restart, Boyd Hogan is all over Andrew Navarro, but the number 42 stays in front. Hogan tries to close the difference between first and second, a car length and a half.
You see Boyd Hogan right there. He's just riding the same line as that 42. All top 5 cars are staying there. You see a car get loose right there, the 5. He breaks out just a tad bit, but the top 3's pulling away with this lead, and no surprise to see those two in the top 2 positions right now.
A lot of heavy hitters in this race. We talk about talent from the eNASCAR, Coca-Cola iRacing Series and down. Saw a couple of those drivers in round number 1. Of course, Blake McCandless here competing this afternoon in qualifier number 2. So a lot of the top oval guys on the iRacing service here to make the show. But look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have broken away just a little bit from the start of this race. McCandless down 2, started 3rd. He's in 5th in that fast entry. But then it's a big gap back to 9th, where things are really interesting, close to the bubble battle. They're already nearly 4 seconds off the race leader, but look at all of this. Cole Dutton is the bubble driver right now in the number 10 position. He's going to break away just a little bit in his 02.
Hey, you see him right here. He's fighting away. He's looking in his rearview mirror, and he sees 3, 4 wide back there, and that doesn't work at Darlington for very long. You might get away with it in turns 3 and 4, but if you funnel down into turn 1 and you're 2 or 3 wide, that's a recipe for disaster. And you said you might see a car with a little bit of damage. Look at the O2's front end. It does have a little bit of crinkle on it, but he still finds himself in the bubble position, and that is a crucial spot for him to hold because he's going to transfer to the next race.
He is in as we run now, hot on the heels of Kieran Church up the road, and then behind them, Sean Butler, first driver out. You can see Butler's black and red entry get a little bit loose that time off of 2. Might have got a stripe on it. It's a good looking race car, though, in the number 11 spot. Butler's had a good start, up 6 positions. He's been very aggressive on his drive to the doorstep of the bubble. But, I mentioned how spread apart things are, and you can really see that on perspective here. Looking off of the front end of the number 54 machine. That is Jason Code, 16th spot with some work to do. And that's really a product of what those single file restarts do, and the fact that here on the cemetery, restarts different procedure than a drop of the initial green flag. When we took the green flag to start this race, Andrew Navarro could not accelerate until the green flag was thrown. On restarts, it's his discretion to restart the race anytime between when the pace car goes to pit road and when they actually get to the green flag being displayed. So that restart procedure and the single file restarts, I think, a big factor in why there's so much space from the front of the field back to the mid pack.
Yeah, and you talk about the talent level in here. They know how to get through the gears without spinning the tires. We had a lap, per se, around this racetrack, and any little bit tears the tires up, and they didn't spin them. They were able to launch a great launch coming out of the corner to get themselves up there. But these cars are already starting to get loose. We're 12 laps into this race, and you see people already getting sideways as there looks to be a battle for second.
And that is where the fight is. Chad Peterson is on the move, and he wants Boyd Hogan to have to worry about a little bit of defense here instead of the offense. He's trying to close up onto the Reaper Speed Lab number 96 Chevrolet of Hogan. In fact, Navarro is the only Ford Thunderbird in the top 12 as he paces the field so far here this afternoon. But 1, 2, and 3 trying to get a little bit away from TJ Bursky, who's been awfully quiet behind. That's the Slim Jim number 5 Chevy, just a little bit off of the back end there. He's got the Lumina decals on that one, but you can see, I mean, all these drivers in the show, and we kind of beat the dead horse last week, but I'll just mention it again. Can they have the discipline to worry about just the transfer here this evening? Things close it in, though, in the battle for the bubble. You're on board with Kieran Church, and up the road, that is the 02 of Cole Dutton. Dutton just got passed by Sean Butler, and now he is under fire for that coveted P10.
Yeah, the 22's right there on the back bumper, and I find it interesting looking over here and seeing when the pit lap was. Cole came in on lap 2, and Keeman did not. Mr. Church stayed on the racetrack in that 22, and now he finds himself fighting for that. He was about a second away from the 02 about 3 laps ago, and now he finds himself on the doorstep, on the back bumper. Will he use that Thunderbird to put the chrome horn to get past that 02 for that transfer spot?
And I wonder, you know, we mentioned the damage on the 02. You have to wonder, is that having a factor? Cole Dutton, 6th in the qualifying session. He was 3rd best in practice earlier this afternoon, but is very clearly struggling with that damage. That's where you really have to weigh the risk versus reward. Is it worth staying out or not? Up front, meanwhile, continuing to hound your race leader Navarro is Hogan. But again, Peterson, I think the primary concern right now, not forcing the issue. Again, you're really going to have to get a run on somebody, I think, to be putting a pass into the top 5 at about lap 20. Typically, if you're not going to get all the way up directly alongside somebody by the time you get to the corner, you're not diving down to the bottom. And even then, you may also prefer somebody to just let you go at this point. There is no need to over push it. So we'll keep monitoring things up front. But I think right here around P10 is the big question mark. What can Cole Dutton do on this long run with a beat-up 02 Chevy?
We talked about the damage, maybe putting a little bit of hinder on his speed, but he ran a 32.7 to a 32.8 between the 02 and the 22. 02 is clearly faster at this moment, but not by a whole lot. It's the difference of going up the racetrack, getting on the gas at a certain point in here. These two are going to have a great battle towards the end if anybody else can't get up there and race with them. These two have shown a lot of respect to one another over the past 3 laps of racing around each other. And it's going to be interesting to see how desperate that 10th place position gets. About 3 laps to go.
And they're already about 10 seconds off of the race leader. A pretty good indication of some of the pace difference early here in qualifying race number 2. Just kind of watching, I mean, you know, Navarro open up the gap a little bit there. Now it's going to close back in 3 and 4. Boyd Hogan, Chad Peterson all over each other, looking down at the bottom, and even TJ Bursky has dropped back and closed in. So just kind of watching who could find that consistency, get themselves into an early rhythm here at Darlington Raceway. And the onboard perspective, there's a great way to illustrate just how different turns 1 and 2 are compared to 3 and 4.
It's a very different contrast. One of them you can arch, you can sweep that corner in turns 1 and 2. There's so much speed that can be found there. It can be made up on the high lane as the 5 gets into the wall right there. He was catching the battle between 2nd and 3rd, and now the 5 gets the wall, but he still gets good pace off the exit of the corner going down the front straightaway.
And how about the pass for Chad Peterson? He is through to the number 2 position. He got about as alongside the 96 as I said you would want to make a move. He was right there, nose to nose into the corner. Boyd Hogan fought him for it through 3, but by the time they got to 4, he very clearly backed out of it, tucked in line. And you mentioned Bursky getting into the fence. That gave the real estate for the 96 to tuck in line and make up a position. Josh Lee, somebody else who was involved in the incident early in this race, that we cannot Hashtag blame Evan, because I was not talking this time when the caution flag came out, so that one is not on me. But Josh Lee driving with our Podium Esports colors as one of the few drivers in the field, rocking the blue oval with some damage, opting not to burn his quick repair early in this one. Back on board with Dutton. The advantage for that number 10 position has swung in favor of Kieran Church. He has made the pass, and Cole Dutton now down 2 positions in the last 10 laps and finds himself now outside of a transfer spot working lap number 22.
We were talking about the more the laps increased, and you said about lap 20 you would see the difference of speed when it came to these race cars. These tires are gone. They're screaming, change me. Every lap around this is just like Atlanta. It's such a dirty, gritty, old racetrack that you want new tires any chances to get them, but they can't go get them. They can't go get them because nobody else is going to pit, and you don't want to give that track position up. And right now, that 10th place position by Mr. Church, he wants it, and he wants it bad, as it looks like there is a battle for the lead that is heating up.
And Peterson's been able to now separate himself, right? He's making it look pretty clear that he was the faster car in that battle for second. He cleared Boyd Hogan, and he has pulled substantially. That difference is nearly 0.4 of a second, so now he needs to set his sights on the race leader. How aggressive are you willing to be? If you're Andrew Navarro, this 37 car is hounding you right now for the race lead. If he gets alongside, are you going to pitch it into the corner side by side with him, or do you play it easy and let him go? But clearly, Chad Peterson is the instigator, and here's where he made the pass for second. A big run out of 2, looks to the inside and off into turn number 3. They're both a little bit of a tiptoe spot. Navarro, I think, lifted in anticipating a hard drive in for Peterson. Peterson also lifted out of the gas. They're nose to nose for the race lead, and Andrew Navarro does not want to fight him for it at lap number 26. New race leader, it's Peterson, as there's a spinner down on the apron. Look out. No caution, though. Single car off of the racing surface. We'll be fine, but a spinner down there. Gary Sexton ends up on pit road.
And as a fan, I wanted to see the 42 and the 12 race side by side right there. Or I'm sorry, the 37 and the 42. But as a racer, there's no sense in it. The 42 made a very wise decision of rolling out of the throttle and letting the 37 go on by. But I was over here cringing my chair. I was hoping to see some side-by-side racing for this lead. No better place to win than Darlington, and these guys have an opportunity to do it. But now the top 5 has closed in on one another again.
It was just weird timing how they both kind of hurt each other as we look back at the battle between McCandless and Bursky, and give it to the 211. Blake McCandless makes a pass on Bursky. First time Bursky is going to go backwards in this race, and McCandless gets a bit of payback for a pass earlier on this evening. Meanwhile, Boyd Hogan now looking down to the inside of Navarro. He was unable to make this pass when it was for the win. Now he's trying to make the pass for second position. Hanging it out at a turn 2. Can't get that car to stick on the inside. And McCandless thinks about cutting a break, but he'll put it down to the inside, and they'll fight for third. Navarro, look out! The 42 into the fence in front of them.
Oh my goodness, man, I'm like a kid in a candy store watching this race. They're slipping a slide. We talked about the looseness, the sunshine beating down on this racetrack, and you see them jerking and seesawing that wheel back and forth because these things want to break loose every time you touch that brake. You barely get on the throttle, it wants to spin around. 96, 42, 5, they're all sideways, and that's what the Throwback Retro 500's about, baby. Sideways racing.
And they're hanging it out only, what, 1/4 of the way into this thing? I mean, these drivers, we talk about those tires, are going to get worse and worse. Track temp continues to creep on up. It is going to be a hard-fought one. Here comes Bursky again now. He'll look to the inside of Hogan. He takes him out. Hogan get turned. He's down to the inside fence. Keeps it out of the wall. No caution. But, man, that is not what they wanted in the fight for third.
That is not what he wanted to see. And Boyd Hogan, he's still in the transfer spot. He's still in the top 10 as he sits because they had such a commanding lead. That 96, they just made slight contact. There's nothing you could do. It was a racing deal. But now he's in ninth. His tires are shot. He went around, he slid them, but he didn't hit nothing. No need for that fast repair. but can he hold on to this car until we either get a caution or they come down and pit? We're 30 laps in. The pit stop should be on the horizon for us.
Well, that's the biggest question for me, right? He did a really good job of locking that car up so that it didn't end up in the inside wall. Problem is, he really heated up those tires. I think it's miraculous enough that Boyd Hogan is still in a transfer spot after getting spun in the battle for third position, but it's even more tricky now, the challenge to keep it going on the tires. Also, a penalty has been handed down to TJ Bursky for rough driving from race control. We talked about penalties handed out at the end of qualifier number 1, and you saw in that replay it was very clearly TJ Bursky who turned Boyd Hogan in the battle for third, and Bursky is attempting to plead his case right now, but Terry, I don't know how many times pleading your case with race control has ever worked out, so I would anticipate the 5 car to be down pit road shortly.
Now, I don't reckon arguing with the people in the truck gets you anywhere, but oh my goodness, I'm still catching my breath at the fact that that 96 just kept it off the wall. That was some of the most impressive driving I've seen since watching Days of Thunder and watching him go through that cloud of smoke here at Darlington. But he must have 4 sticker tires on that darn thing, because he come around there and slid them, and he's still sitting in 9th place.
It's good stuff, and he's got Dutton not that far behind, so Dutton's going to be putting the pressure on him. Don't forget Forrest Scott now just a little bit further on down the road in 11th position is now the driver on the doorstep. All of this because a couple of drivers towards the rear have shuffled through, and now a caution, a flag, and another spin. Boyd Hogan is around, but I don't think that's the caution. We will see. It might have been. He just got sideways enough, and that may have been enough to trigger the yellow flag. So we've just questioned, can he do it on those tires? Well, the answer is no. He is sideways in 3 and 4. A good job of saving that race car, but I believe the iRacing service throws the automatic yellow for that one. Butler was also loose up the road from him as well, so a lot of issues in 3 and 4, but it is a yellow flag for the second time tonight. We had like 3 cars sideways, so I can't tell you who it was for. They all caught him, but we got a yellow nonetheless.
Man, I tell you what, I'm watching these guys slipping and sliding around here, and I'd love to see an in-car what these boys are doing, because I ain't much of a racer. I'm more comfortable up here in a booth talking with a nice microphone and a headset on, but seeing these boys slipping and sliding around this track makes me want to get out there and race.
So now for the first time we may see race leaders headed to pit road. We had not seen that on the first trip down, but all of your race leaders going to come in this time for fuel and for tires. It is a very unique pit lane as well here at Darlington. Downhill slope in the runoff to turn number 1. Those pit stalls at the very end going to be on a little bit of a bank as it goes off and into the center of turn number 1. And McCandless is going to force the issue here on the run down pit road.
Yeah, these guys are they're trying to get everything they can out of here. I'm curious, and maybe we can get some clarification. The 5 got that penalty, Evan, but when the caution came out, he hadn't served it yet. Is he going to have to serve the penalty now that we're going back to green, or is it served?
We'll see from race control. I think that discussion ongoing. Race off for the pit lane, though, led by Peterson. Chad Peterson wins off of pit road. He goes for right side tires, only 2 tires as well for Cole Dutton, who comes off of the pit lane second, and Blake McCandless will be the first driver on 4 tires. So as we pace under our second caution of the afternoon, we take an opportunity to step aside. Chad Peterson leading early on in qualified race number 2 for the Retro 500 on Podium Esports. And back live from the virtual Darlington Raceway, where coverage of tonight's Retro 500 qualifier is brought to you by McConey Setup Shop. The McConey Setup Shop is your home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From legends to cup cars, we've got you covered with dirt setups available for late models, modifieds, and winged sprints as well. At McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories. Their newest book, How I Drive, featuring a foreword by NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo, is now available. Come learn from the pros on how to be the best driver you can be. Visit McConeySetupShop.com for more information. We're getting set for a restart that will put 38 of tonight's 123 laps behind us, and welcoming you back into the broadcast booth alongside Terry Radford, myself, Evan Pasoko, with our producer, Ryan Bauer. And Terry, we've seen a lot of good stuff early in this race, but the big story evidently in that last sequence was the big spin and subsequent save, and then another spin there with drivers battling up front and maybe a little bit too hard. Do have the update on that penalty. It has been an end of the longest line penalty assessed to TJ Bursky, so he's going to go all the way to the rear, and we're going back green this time.
I'm curious to see the tire strategy that these guys are pulling off right here. The first guy on 4 fresh tires is sitting back in about 4th position. How are they going to progress up to the top? Are these leaders going to be able to hold this? And is this track going to continue to get slick?
In theory, only going to get worse and worse if we get deeper into a hot virtual, albeit, South Carolina afternoon. The pace car is off and in. It is an early jump for Peterson. Green flag, 85 laps to go, and he's a mile ahead to turn 1. And the strategy play for Blake McCandless, mentioned off of the race off of the pit lane. He is the first car on 4 fresh tires. Is that enough to catch up to Chad Peterson? We learned as we went through qualifying race number 1 last week, the 2 tires is not a terrible call. Just something to keep in mind as these drivers race on through. With Dutton dropping back, Peterson's basically the only guy out there on 2 tires.
Yeah, I don't think 2 tires has been a bad strategy right here. We saw Chad, he got a good jump on the restart. He pulled away from those guys, and he actually did it in such a methodical way. He was able to get going, and he's gone. He's taken off. The gap's going out to about 9/10 of a second, and he's stretching it out to a whole second from the 211. It's going to be interesting as the run progresses. Can he continue the speed and the pace that he's putting down now?
And all throughout the field here, you can see the 5 Bursky under fire, had to drop back due to the penalty. Probably actually lucked out in the fact that the yellow flag came out and that penalty was changed to an EOL, because if he had to drive through pit road under green, could have easily lost an entire lap. So he may actually luck out in this, and with the pass there on Schriever, moves himself back into the single digits in the number 9 position. Meanwhile, a little bit further on up, there is the battle between those two, and now even further up, going to the inside on Boyd Hogan. Here comes Zachary Mertens, and he'll make a move through for P number 6. There is no way to not see that Rainbow Warrior 102 driving through the field, and Zachary now a +3 from early in this one. Didn't talk a ton about him in the opening run of this race, but maybe that's a good thing. Clean race car, and he's going the right direction.
Yeah, we talked about it a little earlier about people not getting too aggressive. You're in the top 10 position. The only aggression that I would even remotely think about as a driver is on that bubble spot. When you're on that 10th place spot, you have to be defensive. You have to continue to go where the other cars are. And we saw Boyd let the 102 by. Smart move. If you see the guy's faster, then you just move over. No sense in racing it. You're way early in this race, and these spots only count for where you're going to start in the main show.
That is the big thing. If it wasn't a determination, then hey, just hang out, right? No reason to force the issue. So there is some semblance of worth to that risk, right? Is it worth maybe not qualifying? You could maybe argue that if you're not having a good night, just try it again in qualifier 3 or 4. I think you just want to lock this up, whether it's a 10th place car or not tonight. But there is an advantage to creeping your way up the running order, and you can see those top 16 pinned on the left-hand side of your screen. Not a ton of changes. Of course, Roswell Harlow, all of a sudden the biggest mover up the road in 3rd. He has plus 17 positions after starting back in 20th spot. So it's good to track what that machine has been up to this afternoon. But again, the single file restart's really spacing things out. Peterson's been oh so good, but he's been in control. And another pass of the works for Zachary Mertes. He'll go to the inside this time on Kieran Church. And in the blink of an eye, he's now a top 5 race car.
He definitely has the speed. I'm watching him go around, and he continuously puts up really good lap times. He's not falling off. The pace compared to his competitors aren't going away. He's able to save the race car. As I say that, he gets loose coming off the corner right there. The 5, he's faster than him. He's going to get a pass out there coming into turn number 1. But it's incredible to see these guys put a little bit more skill in it and race each other and have more fun with it as the 5 and the 102 are battling now.
You'll have that sometimes in the booth. You talk about how good some guys got it gripped up, and then he immediately breaks sideways and just about fences it. So it's only 1 spot lost for the number 102 machine there. So it's going to drop Mertes back to the number 6th position. Should be able to recover again. Just anytime somebody slips and slides, though, I'm worried about those tires. Tracked up pretty stable at about 115. Meanwhile, up front, Chad Peterson has pulled away the biggest advantage for the race lead we have seen tonight. It is about 1.9 seconds, and now over 2 seconds back to Blake McCandless. So you would think McCandless would be the better driver here with the 4 fresh tires, but Chad Peterson with 2 is putting on a clinic right now at the front of the field into number 12.
He must have done a lot of practice on 2 tires right there in that machine, because I'm watching him enter into the corner and he's diamonding it, which is something you never really see here because it does affect the tires, but he's wearing them perfectly. The way he's arching it in, he's kind of swinging it down to the bottom, rolling it up to the top, and right there he stays in the middle. It's just a perfect balance of what he's got going on right there. Little to no hand movement in that machine, and he's finding his way up, and he continues to grow that lead as now it's 2.5 seconds.
I mean, he is consistently one of the best drivers on track. I should note, though, the last lap, he was only the 2nd fastest driver on track. The best, well, the guy that we talked about a little bit earlier on in this race. It was a very impressive run for TJ Bursky. So Bursky's been able to drive his way back past this group on the inside of the corner and all the way up right there to P number 5. He has already recovered back to where he started this race in P5. We talked about Bursky and the contact that he had there causing the accident. Don't think there was any intention behind that incident, no doubt, but was penalized for it. And he is really showing as he slices through the field that he's really good on speed. Also, the battle for the transfer continues to be a hot one. Warren Keith has got it right now, but looking to the inside is Cole Dutton. He'll challenge into 3, and the 24 keeps his foot in it up top and is not going to put that one down without a fight.
The 02, it looks like he actually did fix his damage. The fast repair was used. Now, saying that, how aggressive can he get using the fast repair? He doesn't have that in his back pocket like he did earlier. I think he knows that he has a good enough race car to get into the transfer position, but it's a matter of how you get into the transfer position, because he's going to have to be a little bit more aggressive than he is now just to get around and make a clean pass on this 24.
That's all you want. You want this to stay clean, and not only for your sake, but for the sake of the other drivers as well. If you wrong somebody, even virtual race car drivers, pretty notorious for not letting things go by the wayside. They got a long memory, only when it comes to racing, though. Funny how that works as we check back in that battle for fourth position. Navarro continuing to hold off Bursky, who looked to the inside that time, doesn't do it, and we're within 10 laps all of a sudden to being halfway through this second of the qualifying races.
Yeah, we're almost halfway through right here, but you see these two battling, the 42 and the 5. The 5 has consistently been one of the fastest race cars on this track. Right now, he laid the second fastest lap time down to our leader, but he's also in traffic. He's having to battle. I know these are the 87 cars, and draft wasn't a big thing back here on these type of tracks, but with the 5 being in the air of that Thunderbird, he's having a hard time getting through the corner and getting off the exit. I've looked at his speed, and he's not able to arch it. He's not able to gun it and get that run down these long straightaways.
And this is that mid portion of the race, I think, where you need to keep your discipline, right? Through the first cycle of pit stops, early in the race, you got a bit maybe of nervous energy, but certainly you're real locked in as there's a look down to the inside. And it is Forrest Scott trying to make the pass on Keenan Church. Can't do it. And, well, Warren Keith just about put his car to the outside. So this huge group is a 5-car battle from 8th position to 12th. But I talk about discipline. You cannot let that focus lapse for a moment. So easy to make a self-mistake, get into the wall, spin out on your own. But, I mean, this is some of the best racing that we've seen from a high above 5-car battle for P8.
And most of these guys that are sitting outside that transfer position, people sitting behind Forrest Scott, they say, that's my goal. That's where I need to be. Now, they have traffic in front of them. 2 cars battling in front of him as the 24 gets loose right there. 33 is going to catch up to the side. He gets loose. Now it's almost 3 wide for 10th.
And he puts it on the bottom, the 33. Oh, he commits, though. He pulls right up in front of Warren Keith. And Keith is going to ride the wall through turn number 1. A heavy shot to Warren Keith. And let's look at this one again. Just a miscommunication. I think that he thought Keith was going to let him go. And when Scott goes into the corner, he drives it in there like the 24 is not there.
Yeah, you're right. It just thought he wasn't going to be there. And I talked on a different racetrack that in the blink of an eye, your spotter says you're clear, but you're not clear for long. And I honestly thought that he might have thought that they were going to let him go. And he didn't. He pushed it. He went back on the gas, and it was a tough break for the 24. But how could he rebound, and did he use that fast repair? It'd be interesting to see at the end of this race.
Wonder what the damage is going to be like with Scott as well. When he got into the fence, I thought I saw a body panel come off that car. It looks like it might be okay, but we saw how damage affected some other drivers in this race, including Dutton, who he's racing against, right? You talk about how the O2 has decided to go for that quick repair, got it touched up on the last caution flag cycle. Well, he was the one who really hurt from keeping damage on the car earlier in the run. See if Scott can chase down Dutton. That is the battle for the transfer. Meanwhile, this is the fight for third position. Roswell Harlow hanging it out off of turn number 4. And here comes Andrew Navarro. He'll go to the inside in 1. And the smart play by Harlow to let him go. Bursky makes it a twofer with an aggressive drive by the Slim Jim number 5.
Man, I love how that 5's running right here. I'm a big Slim Jim fan. I'm actually going to go to this race in a Macho Man Randy Savage costume, because how big is throwback weekend than Macho Man Randy Savage? And he's driving it like he is the Macho Man. He's up here in the 4th position, got the EOL, drove all the way back up here to the top 5, showing that speed and showing what it's all about right here in this retro race.
Doing everything you would expect out of him. Bursky has had such an up and down night, but the one consistent, the one thing that you cannot argue is he is always one of the best drivers on the racetrack, one of the fastest, in fact. But at this point, I mean, Chad Peterson is just at a different zip code, and not really talking about it because he's leading this thing, but we checked in and it was 1.8, 1.9 second advantage. We could take a wide shot and you would not find Blake McCandless. He is 5 seconds up the road. Not that I'm shocked about Peterson's speed, but he was 4th best in qualifying. He was only 8th best in practice. That's still good speed, don't get me wrong, but I mean, even with the 2-tire call, it is just so impressive what he's doing on this run.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and as you talked about him, he goes into the wall just a tad bit, but yeah, 5 seconds. It's a 5-second gap, and he put a ton of practice in this. There's no doubt that he didn't, and he probably said in the back of his head, if there's one chance that I can go put 2 tires on this bad boy and pull away from him, I don't think he ever would have said 5 seconds would be my lead, but it is, and he's gone. So these other guys need to hope for a caution because he might take this one all the way to the bank.
Here's the onboard perspective. He still wants more, trying to get up to Andrew Navarro. We are halfway home, though, in qualified race number 2. Let's take a look at our iRacing midway race break brought to you by iRacing. iRacing is the world's premier online racing game that puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Working lap number 64, we just talked about him, Chad Peterson, continuing to dominate the second qualifying race. His lead is more than 5 seconds. Back to Blake McCandless in the number 2 spot. McCandless, first driver on 4 tires out of pit road. It is a fast Burton Kligerman Esports entry in the 211. And then the battles we talked about. Andrew Navarro still sits in 3rd. That's him up the road. You're on board with TJ Burski in 4th. This fight likely to continue. A little bit further behind them, Roswell Harlow occupies the number 5 position at the moment. He is also under fire from behind. There is Boyd Hogan's number 96 machine trying to recover from a spin a little bit earlier on, and in fact looking to the inside. Why not? Hogan looking for P5. He'll take it away, drop Harlow down to 6th. And then things spread out just a little bit. I mean, you got Zachary Mertens at 102, just up the road from Sean Butler, P8, Cole Dutton in P9, and Kiernan Church is the bubble driver right now in P10.
Yeah, that bubble spot right there is holding a 4-second lead on 11 with Jake Bellman. That's the biggest advantage we've seen for the transfer spot this entire evening. And the fact that the 22 is able to hold it where he's holding it, you don't have to be too aggressive right here. The 22 gets a little sideways, but there's no sense in pushing it too hard. You're already in that transfer spot. Go ahead and just take it easy. Cool these tires down. The track continuously heats up. This track's not going to cool down until we get some cloud cover. So if I was that 22, pedal her down, back it down as much as a race car driver would, and just be easy with it.
And he's pulling away 5 seconds ahead of Jake Balmain in 11th, so that is a big step in his advantage. And there's a lot of funning going on outside of the bubble spot right here. Warren Keith into the fence in 12th. Forrest Scott is 13th position. He may try to challenge him here. It's been a quiet night for Jake Ham. He's in the mix in 14th as well, ahead of Josh Lee in 15th and Brian Scrivener in 16th. That is all the cars on the lead lap right now. David Barnes and Jason Coe are 1 lap down in 17th and 18th spot. 2 laps down in 19th position is Patrick Langley, and then the 2 drivers to the garage, Matthew Stallnecht in 20th and Vernon Margim in 21st. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break with more than 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scanned cars and tracks to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. With iRacing, every day is race day. For more information on how to start your sim racing career, visit iRacing.com for more information. Some 34 laps into this run. It is now, Terry, the longest green flag run of the afternoon we've seen so far.
It is the longest green flag run we've seen so far, and we still see people slipping and sliding around this racetrack, but they're controlling it. They're handling it out. They're hanging it all on the line right here. This is your opportunity. These top 10 drivers have a chance to move on and advance to the Retro 500 main show, and that means a lot to these guys. They put a lot of practice into it, and I'm going to be curious when they come onto pit road, Evan. Can they lock it up? Can they slow it down just enough to get on there without losing control of these hot rods?
It is tricky, and as we get deeper into the run, tires are going to fall off more and more. Maybe not in the the battles towards the back. I mean, Navarro pretty comfortable right now in the number 4 position after Bursky made that pass on him. But I don't think the guys up front going to be forcing the issue. They can afford to back it down just a little bit. Of course, you got to be concerned about the guys towards 10th. If they start fighting and they really start pushing it, we've already seen several instances of contact tonight, but I think overall, and there's a big hit there into the outside wall, and spinning now off of turn number 4 is Kieran Church, the bubble driver on his own. Throws it away in turn number 4. He was not sure, I think, what Mertes was doing up the road, and that thing snapped into the fence, and that is a huge hit to the driver who was in a transfer spot when that happened.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he just went in the corner and lost it, and now he's losing it again as now he's coming down pit road. But what a tough break right there. He goes into the corner and just absolutely gets on the throttle just a little bit too quick, and it just snapped. It just broke. It's like it just went straight to the wall. Oh my goodness.
It is heartbreak for Church, who straightens the car out, but keep in mind 10th position as is was already some 20 seconds off of the race leader. We're only talking lap times here at Darlington just above the 32-33 range right now. So he immediately loses a lap. Church is going to come down pit road, I think, for service, but even if he decides to stay in this race, best case scenario is 16th position, I think, 2 laps down, if not 3. So that really is huge for Kieran Church. And the dramatic irony in it is that I was just saying, well, if you're spread out, you probably don't have too much to worry about. And I think that's an indication. I talked about not losing focus. That is how quick your race can go sideways, and Navarro will pull down and out of the way to give Boyd Hogan the number 4 spot. Navarro very much subscribing to the fact that if I'm in the top 10, I'm happy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's been the model of consistency. We've seen him. He's the only Thunderbird right now, or actually 2 Thunderbirds in the top 10. He was the only one. He was the flagship holder for the Fords. And he hasn't left it. He hasn't left the transfer spot. He hasn't raced anybody too hard either. If he sees you get to his outside or sees you trying to make a run, he backs out of it. There's no sense in ruining it. He knows he has a fast hot rod. He could take it to the main show and get it going.
So just when you think that we can settle in to the run to the end of this race, something like that happens, and one of the most talked about cars in the field drops out of the picture. Kieran Church is able to get back on track. He has not parked that car, but it is 17th position when it is all said and done. A lot of smoke as well through 3 and 4 there, even without a car wrecking. I mean, somebody is getting loose every single time we go down and into that end of the racetrack. 1 and 2, because it's a much wider, drivers are able to stay on the throttle, and you almost have to diamond that corner a lot, right? You got to enter a little bit low, you get up to the fence on the exit, and you got to make sure you cut low off of 2, or that wall really jumps out at you. But in 3 and 4, it's the same thing. You're going to be faster if you're up on the fence, but are you willing to go a little bit too high? And Scherver was the driver, or Screever, I should say, was the driver who went a little bit loose there in the 70 machine. That was the smoke we saw. He is the bubble driver. One thing I was not anticipating in this race, though, is McCandless is sideways now in turns 1 and 2. That's trying to get around lap traffic in 1 and 2.
My goodness, they keep going sideways. Like you said, everybody's hanging it on the jagged edge. You see Boyd Hogan go up there for P2 as the 211 does come down pit road, but everybody wants to go for it. Everybody wants to go for the positions, and now it's hungry time. We're coming down. Oh my gosh, yellow's out.
Caution flag just as several drivers were trying to pit, and your culprit is right there pulling back up onto the apron. I believe it was TJ Bursky. I wonder if a lot of these drivers started losing tires, because that was 3-4 different spinners in about a lap and a half. And you'll see this from Bursky, 4th position. He's all on his own. You were seeing Navarro and Schriebner come down to the pit lane, and then all of a sudden Bursky spins out right here, all on his own. Set number 3 and 4. That's not a case of the car getting loose and it snapping around. That thing just looped very quickly.
My goodness, the tires are gone. These tires are screaming like a pig in a pen, and they want to get off this race car as quick as possible. And you just see that 5. He gets into the throttle, trying to get the run off the exit like you were talking about earlier, of riding that fence, kind of pulling the Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick line. And he just looped it around, and luckily for the 42, he didn't get a whole lot of damage in that. So we'll see if Mr. Consistency can sit up there and continue to run in a good spot.
And now this gets interesting because some drivers had gotten their pit service. McCandless and others. The question is, were they on pit road before the yellow came out, or will they be penalized? And now the other drivers are coming down to the pit lane now. But with all these drivers having tire problems, that was with 44 laps on the tires. Look top left on your screen. 44 laps to go in this race. If we go green off of the next restart, they'll be screaming by the time we get down to the end of it. But it's a very lonely walk down pit road. All your race leaders are in, but look how far ahead Peterson and Hogan are as they lead us down for service.
Man, I bet them crew members, whenever they touch some tires, they're screaming as well. Their hands are blistering because these things are getting bubbles. You said 44 laps to go when they take this green flag. If we do stay caution-free, whoever wins this race is the ultimate tire saver because they had truly shown what the Lady in Black can do for these cars.
And for a second straight time, Chad Peterson comes down pit road, right side tires only. His lefts have been on there for all 81 laps of this qualifier. We'll step aside. The home stretch is next. Can Chad Peterson hang on from Darlington?
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that McConey Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at McConey Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, McConey Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to McConeySetupShop.com and learn why McConey Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Back live from Darlington, South Carolina. Coverage of tonight's Retro 500 qualified race is brought to you by Martin Sports. Founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Martin Sports strives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has got you covered. Along with shirts and other team wear, they also offer gloves specially crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. If you want to learn more, you can visit them online at martinsports906.com or visit them at facebook.com/martinsports for more information. Well, this race has gotten real exciting through the midway point. Lights out on top of the pace track. We're going back green this time through. We caution a flag after a spin from one of your top contenders of, well, we had Kieran Church, I should say, spin it a little bit earlier on, but then TJ Bursky from the number 4 spot has jumbled up the running order. Several drivers who were coming to pit road at the moment of yellow were caught out. They now go to the rear of the field for pitting under a closed pit. And Chad Peterson, with his second straight 2-tire stop, will lead us to the green flag as the lights go back on top. So we'll take one more trip around. Terry getting set to go through. Boyd Hogan opted to go, I believe, for the 4 tires, but it's very clear that 2-tire strategy caught on because Butler, Dutton, you got Harlow, you got Meritez, all drivers who have decided, you know what? That strategy worked out pretty good for old Chad Peterson. So there were actually more 2-tire calls than 4 amongst your race leaders that last trip down.
Yeah, they might have quoted me on my pig pen thing, but these drivers need to know you ain't got to have the prettiest cow out here to take it to the swap meet. If you go out there, you bang that wall down, who cares? You still got in the top 10 position if you get it. These people taking these 2 tires, it worked for Chad Peterson in the first little run right there. He pulled away 5 seconds. He had a 5-second lead on second when that caution flag come out, and now other people saw that strategy and said, I got to do that. So now let's see if Boyd Hogan, he's found himself in the second. Can he go up there and challenge old Chad for this lead?
And the restarts are going to be so critical. We've talked about how perfect Peterson has been. I know it's not the end-all, be-all. I know if that you've got the speed. I mean, he pulled out 5 seconds. You don't get 5 seconds from jumping a guy by 4 car lengths on a restart. We understand that. But I feel like if you want to be able to apply some pressure and not let this guy get locked in, you're going to have to stick with him on a restart. Pace truck down and in with 39 laps to go from Darlington. It'll be a slow roll this time for Chad Peterson, who takes the green flag. And you can see a caution flag to the rear. It's Jake Balmain, who had the issues in the 83 car, was in 7th position at the time and just didn't go. I wonder if he missed a shift there. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe trying to go to 4th, drop to 2nd, or trying to go up to 3rd, drop to 1st. But, I mean, that car just did not go. And clearly, Jake Ham had nothing he could do. Check this out.
Oh man, you're on icicles when you put these fresh tires on. There's no heat in them. So getting as much heat in them as possible on this racetrack, maybe trying to do a little wheel spin before you do take that green's a big key advantage that they could try to apply. And he's still sitting in the 10th place position, Evan. I mean, the transfer spot's wide open for these guys.
And it's going to come down to every single restart. The question is now, once you get that one late race yellow like this, right, how hard is it going to be for us to get 20, to get 30 laps out of this run? Or is it going to be a lot of starting and stopping?
I don't reckon we're going to have a lot of starting and stopping. I think we're going to see these guys come out there and they're going to put it all on the line. But the guys in the top 10 have to realize you're battling for the position to transfer into the main show. And I know your starting position is going to be crucial to where you go into the big event for the Retro 500. But is it worth knocking yourself out of it and having to come back for race 3, come back for race 4? Or can you just nip it in the bud right now and go out there and take it? There's a couple guys coming down pit road, Evan, and I think it's a smart move. You're already in the back. You're already in the transfer spot. Come out here and make some noise.
And we talked about some drivers saving quick repairs. I wonder if we reached a point in the night where you're going to burn it, whether you think you need to or not. You need a good race car to get yourself into the top 10 at this time. Of course, not just these qualified races coming up on Podium Esports. A lot of exciting events upcoming. Of course, Monday Night Racing is back next Monday on the 16th. With these 1987 NASCAR stock cars at Darlington Raceway. That's a 7:45 Eastern Time start at twitch.tv/Podium2. And then the Operation E Motorsport iRacing League heads west to Long Beach on the 17th, the Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That one again is at the Operation Motorsport YouTube channel. Then we talk about some of the drivers of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series trying to race themselves into this Retro 500. Well, they are on track for the regular season finale from Michigan. That one Tuesday, August 17th. Countdown to green starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/iRacing. Then the Dirt Sprint Car Championship kicks off a double header night here with the 410 Classics at Oxville, a 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time start. And then the Podium Retro 500 qualifying race number 3 is on deck next. And then, of course, the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series heads to Rockingham. Dual coverage of both of the splits in that one coming to you next Thursday, the 19th, 9 p.m. Eastern, both here at twitch.tv/Podium Esports and down on Podium. Podium 2. So that is all the things to come, but to not get too far ahead of ourselves, a lot to come this afternoon from Darlington. If you're just joining us, this is the second of 4 qualified races for the Podium Retro 500. We are racing for the top 10 drivers. Get on in, and if you want to compete, you can still register for the next race next Wednesday. You can go to podiumesports.com/retro 500 to learn more information. All drivers trying to qualify themselves in to the 367 lap 500 mile main event on Labor Day. $500 up for grabs for the winner too, Terry. Not that bad.
Not that bad at all. You can go down to the honky tonk, 2-step to Brooks and Dunn for about 5-6 hours on that type of money.
I don't even know how to come back on that one, so I'm just gonna say yeah. You get a lot of sim racing gear. I mean, $500 is a lot. I don't know. You want to just come and take my spot on Wednesday? Maybe I'll try to race in this thing because I could go for $500.
Hey, who knows? If you let me do it, I'll go out there and call a race.
I might
be a lot of one-liners.
Yeah, I might stink up the show too much if I go behind the wheel. They don't tend to like me behind the wheel. That's why Josh Lee's car, I know we saw it a little bit earlier, it's got the hashtag blame Evan on the back. And it's normally because I'm jinxing yellows, but I feel like if I caused a yellow, that could apply as well. Pace truck down it in. Let's try this one again with 34 laps to go. Peterson, silky smooth again, takes the green flag and leads to turn 1. So we go to restart towards the front. No fireworks like the last time, but Blake McCandless is down pit road, and this is big because I talked about some of the drivers here getting caught out by the timing of the second most recent yellow, and drivers were coming down pit road. And my guess might be that McCandless may have gotten penalized for entering a closed pit. He is serving at EOL, and all of a sudden he goes from being in the top 5 to not in this race anymore. I mean, this effectively takes him out of it.
It does take him out of it because you are going to lose a lap here, and especially with these guys on fresh tires, there ain't no more sliding. Ain't no more sliding around here for at least 10 more laps, and then we get to the things. But Cole Dutton jumps up to the P2 spot. He's chasing Chad Peterson down. We hadn't talked about Cole in the top 5, but here he is.
He's in a real good spot as well. So he's had a bit of a up and down night, of course. Has gone through the field several times for Dutton. We talked about him a lot in reference to the bubble battle a little bit earlier, but he is very clearly in the battle for the race win in this one and keeping Chad Peterson honest, which is not something we've seen many drivers be able to do. First and second are trying to pull away from everybody else on back.
Yeah, these two right here, you're battling for a second place start. You're battling for the outside of the front row right here in this split. Can the O2 pressure this 37 without wrecking, without damaging anybody in the spot? You don't want to knock yourself out, but there's only 11 cars still on this lead lap, so you still have an opportunity, even if you make a mistake right here with 30 laps to go, to rebound from it. You got a chance. You got to redo your mistake. Let's see how aggressive they can get right here.
And how aggressive do you want to get? How do you walk that tightrope between trying to advance your position and not take yourself out of this race? It feels like that last week's qualifier had more attrition, but somebody's into the inside wall on the front straightaway. He's not alone. Look out. Josh Lee just about takes out the car that was already wrecked and up against the inside wall. That was McCandless, I believe. And then as they approached the scene, Josh Lee got turned off of turn 4 and nearly crashed into the wrecked McCandless. There's a lot to unpack. Here's the first incident. McCandless locks it up. I think he says, my night's done. I'm 2 laps down. Watch out of turn 4. All of a sudden, Josh Lee gets turned. And if McCandless didn't escape out to pit road, that would have been a monstrous accident.
Would have been a huge accident right there, but I tell you what, he is luckier than mess that he missed that. And Josh Lee lives to see another day, and he could potentially get himself into the 12th place position on, or could be in a free pass spot right now. So what an incredible move and an incredible save by Mr. Josh Lee, as now there's a battle for the lead.
And it is Cole Dutton trying to shut down Chad Peterson. We saw Navarro strong early in this one, but for majority of this race, it has been the Chad Peterson show. Can Cole Dutton play spoiler, take out that 37 car leading this race, or can Chad Peterson pull a little bit of magic out one last time? Inside of 30 laps to go. And if those top two start fighting, how about Boyd Hogan? Got spun from a top 5 spot, recovered, spun again on the old tires. How about his drive back up to P3? He's in the mix as well.
Man, it's cool to see Boyd Hogan race. I got to race him in Xbox. I was in the first league ever with him that I was part of on the Xbox side, and to see him racing on iRacing, sitting in P number 3, it's an incredible drive. Remarkable from him to jump back to the back. Got spun, finds himself in 3rd, and he's potentially looking at the outside front row start. So huge, huge advantage to this Chevrolet, as now he's closing in on Cole Dutton for P2.
So if Dutton comes under fire, could help out Peterson. Of course, if the top 2 start fighting side by side, could help out Hogan. Navarro's not that far back and forth. Sean Butler in 5th. Bursky, Harlow, Mertez, Ham, and Balmain. Your top 10 cars are in the Retro 500 as it sits now with 25 laps to go from Darlington. It is not that much drama, though, for the bubble spot, Terry, because only 10 cars are on the lead lap. Forrest Scott is the only car 1 lap down. He is in P11. So if he has any hopes, something's going to happen to a top 10 race car.
You just got to hope. I mean, these guys up here, they know right now, in their head, 24 laps to go, they're in the show. Now, we saw them get aggressive. We saw them get aggressive last week as well. Are they going to get aggressive now? You know, that thought in the back of your head, your crew chief's going, hey, buddy, you know you can go get that 2nd spot. You know you can go get the win. But how aggressive do they take it? Do they know if I make a mistake here, I'm in 10th? So you got a little wiggle room, as now the top 3 are really closing into one another, and those 2 tires don't seem like such a good idea for Mr. Chad Peterson up there.
And Peterson and Dutton working with 2. Boyd Hogan should have the clear advantage. He took 4 tires last time down pit road. Spent a lot of time, in fact, in the box, over a minute, to get that race car dialed in, to get some of the damage touched up. You can see the right-hand side shows a little bit of battle scars, but he is clearly wanting to avenge what happened earlier. And then Reaper Speed Labs number 96 Chevy is on a mission. Peterson, Dutton, Hogan 1 and 2. Even behind them, Sean Butler now starting to close on Navarro in a possible battle for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, like I said, you ain't got to be the prettiest cow in the bunch to go out to the meet. And right now, the 96 ain't the prettiest cow. He finds himself in 3rd, and he is flat laying them down like a bunny chasing a dog. He's got it. He sees 2nd in front of him. The 02 is starting to slip and slide around, but that 96 isn't. I'm surprised to not see the 12 slide or the 37 slide more than he was. But here he is right here, P number 1, and now 2nd is getting hot.
It is heating up. Several battles. There's every time we look at a turn 4, there's smoke because somebody's smoking the tires at any given point. This race is going to come down to the wire. That time by 20 laps to go in the 2nd of 4 qualified races for the Podium Retro 500. It looks like 2nd may be on the auction block first. Dutton has backed off a little bit. It's given to Peterson about an 8 car length advantage. And last time by, Boyd Hogan was the 2nd fastest car on track. Don't count out Sean Butler in 5th. He was the fastest. And look on the horizon. Butler going to get around Andrew Navarro. Navarro gets out of the way, makes it quick and painless. Could possibly Sean Butler do something late in this race?
He's got a little bit to get up there. He's got about 0.7 of a second separating himself and Boyd Hogan, and I just about jumped out of my seat over here. I saw the 96 get up on the back bumper and give that 02 just a little bit of a kiss. Gave him just a little bit of a puck, but he wasn't able to get around him right there. Didn't wreck him, but as you said, here comes Sean. He is running consistently top 2 speed every single lap, and right there, he showed it again. He's still one of the fastest cars on this track.
And it's just like watching the lines these guys take, right? Who's searching and who's already happy with what they got? That's the question. As we watch the race leaders continue to space out just a little bit, I have to think that Sean Butler's at least in the conversation. Last lap, he was 1.7 seconds behind the leader. And this time it's going to be down to 1.4. So he's got a lot of speed. And then you got all of this other battling that we talked about, you know, for the bubble. Maybe not that nail biting, but the likes of Bursky and Navarro and Harlow and some of the other drivers swapping out spots. Your top 6 cars separated by less than 2.5 seconds. So I think Sean Butler is going to run out of laps. I don't know if 16 laps is enough to do it. If this was, you know, even a 140 lap race, not 123, I might even call Butler my favorite here. He is on an absolute tear from 4th. But you're right, I think that gap is going to be the most difficult thing, and not everybody is going to be as cordial as Andrew Navarro. Navarro consistently tonight has been the least aggressive of the drivers. Not that that's a bad thing. He's had the speed. He's been top 5 at almost every single point in this race. But if somebody's challenging him, he does not want to fight him for it. He's going to let him go. It's not an issue. I don't know you're going to get that same passiveness from the likes of Hogan and Dutton.
I don't think you'll get that either. But yeah, you talked about Andrew Navarro. He has been Mr. Consistent. He's been right there. Every single time you see somebody get to his inside or his outside, he don't fight them. There ain't no sense in challenging them. He don't want the Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch moment. He just wants to finish. He just wants to get on to the next one because he knows he can get it. As now the battle for the lead is heating up now.
3 cars within half a second. Butler down to 9/10. We've got a barn burner in store late from a Darlington. This time 14 laps to go. Chad Peterson is under the most pressure he has dealt with all night long. Lap traffic could be a factor. There's a little bit of it, but it's at the other end of the racetrack. Look at all of that back straightaway these race leaders have to work with. They should not encounter too many issues.
Now, that was 14 laps to go, but you talked about all the room they got right there. I think we're going to be using it here soon because you said Sean Butler was coming. He is about to knock on the back door of Boyd Hogan, and this could be the hottest battle on the racetrack because Boyd's catching up to Cole. This race is far from over. 13 to go. These guys are putting it all on the line because they know they don't have a chance to get outside the top 10 right now.
There's a good onboard perspective there with the Butler in 4th position. Who makes the first move? Because if you're Boyd Hogan, you obviously want to get a spot out of this one. But if you can't make a quick, clean pass, if you get up to Cole Dutton, you're only going to aid Peterson by allowing him to pull away. So any move here is going to have to be quick, and you're going to have to commit to it. You're going to have to send it. For lack of a better term, you can't go into the corner tippy-toeing and taking it easy. If you're going to make the pass, you're going to have to commit and hope that your race car comes out of the corner in one piece. I think the battle is going to be back here, though. 2, 3, and 4 seem to be on a collision course with each other.
Yeah, if that 96 can get to the inside of that 02, he ain't going to get him the outside. He ain't going to do that. I don't think he's going to be crazy enough to do it as he gets loose off of that corner right there. Boyd has an opportunity. He sees Sean coming. He doesn't want that drama. He don't want that 32 back there. As the 02 kind of slows him down a little bit, that lets that 32 get a little bit closer to him, as now the battle really did heat up as they come off of 2.
Hogan again closes into the rear deck lid, this time within just a half a car length. He'll look down to the inside in 4. It's awfully tricky, though, and Cole Dutton keeps his foot in the gas. He uses that banking off of the corner to his advantage. Continues to protect. Butler now on the seat as well. It is a 3-car battle with 10 laps to go. Dutton, Hogan, Butler, they're all chasing Peterson, but here comes Boyd Hogan. He'll go down to the inside into turn 3. Dutton keeps the nose, lets him go. Boyd Hogan to second.
And that's commitment right there. Cole Dutton gets to the back bumper road, tries to commit a slide job. But here comes Butler. He's to the outside. Cole gave the outside up to the 32, trying to shoot down to the bottom of the 96 of Boyd, but it was not enough. Here comes Sean to the outside. He's going to complete that pass and put Burke in there. He finds himself on the back bumper of the 02.
And look out now, but there is Bursky there looking down to the inside. Give it to him. I think he caught Cole Dutton a little bit off guard there. Dutton tried to hold off Sean Butler. Didn't give himself an opportunity to just tuck in line, and he loses 2 spots at a single lap. Move Bursky up to the number 4 spot. Dutton trickles back down to P5. Boyd Hogan, though, lap traffic. They're trying to work around David Barnes. That's the number 78 machine. Not for position, and it takes out Hogan. Hogan gets caught out by the lapped car in turn 2. And Butler is furious on the radio as he'll slide down and drops to P5.
Oh my goodness, Boyd is he's heating up that Mike real quick, because that was a bang move. He comes down the track, catches him off the exit of the corner, and he catches him with a ton of speed. I mean, he come off that corner flat flying, got to the back bumper and thought he was going to get the room to go to the bottom, but didn't get it. But he's still in the transfer spot. He's still in the top 5. You could be mad, but that's P2. You gave up the outside, potentially outside of the front row right there on that move, and now he has to fight back up there to it.
Just couldn't do the undercut. Drove into the back of the lapped car. Knew that if he lifted, he would have lost the chance for the race lead. That takes Boyd Hogan out of contention. Second time tonight. He's been caught up in an issue while running up front. He's still in contention for a good finish. P5 at the moment. But in the blink of an eye, Chad Peterson goes from being under the microscope to out. Now the lapped car has got issues. Barnes is spinning off of turn number 2. He got moved out of the way that time by TJ Bursky, and I can't blame him.
Yeah, Bursky he didn't show no mercy right there, but why would you? Why would you show the mercy? He's at the mercy of you at that moment. The lap car had the courtesy to move out of the way, but now Boyd, everybody else got caught up with the 78, but Butler. Butler's the only one that was able to escape the turmoil that was about to happen. Can Boyd get up there and make a move for P number 3 as Sean and Chad, they're gone.
They have checked way out, and all of a sudden, what might have been a thrilling end to this race may end, I don't know, a little bit anticlimactic. 4 laps to go, this time by Peterson holding his advantage strong at 2.6 seconds. And Sean Butler did get to drive his way through. I said that maybe Butler could win this thing if he just had a little bit more time. Well, not the exact way I'm sure he envisioned it happening, but he did eventually end up in second position through all of that chaos, and is probably going to have to deal with Bursky here more than deal with Peterson, because I don't know if Peterson was saving a little bit, but Butler's not making up those 2-3 tenths a second he used to. I think he is fully occupied with TJ Bursky, who's been one of the best cars late, and he's got a run, but he opts not to force the issue that time.
There's no sense in making that run right there, and I think the tires finally even themselves out. It was about time as the 32 gets sideways right there. The 5's closing in. He's taking the air off that back bumper. That back spoiler's starting to get a little bit out there, getting a little squirrely, as now you got the battle. 5's going to take that, put Bursky to P number 2. He ain't got the time to get up there and chase Chad down, but second place is better than finishing 11th or 12th.
Remember, your finishing position inside of the top 10 will determine your starting spot for the Retro 500 next month. Popsicle sticks in the air, though, for Chad Peterson. He just needs to get to the white flag for this race to be official. He opens up his advantage up front and his clean racetrack in front of him. What a night it's been for Peterson.
What a night it has been for Peterson. He has been the strategy guy. And I said on the last pit stop, if you can make these tires last as long as you did, you're going to be the tire-saving king. Well, he ain't changed right side tires. So there he is out here on these old tires coming on the back straightaway for the final time.
2 tires every single trip down pit road. So one side of that race car has got 123 lap old tires. Mid-race, looked like he'd stroll away with it, but he had to fight back from some challenges late in this one. But the fastest car get to the first one home. Chad Peterson, winner of qualifying race number 2, and he punches his ticket to the Retro 500.
What a race. What a race this was.
And very deserving celebration as he slid that one down into 1 and 2. You can tell how much this means for him. Best car in the race, right? Didn't really take control until that tire strategy came in. We had an inkling that it was based on what we saw last Wednesday night. But here tonight, Chad Peterson played his cards perfectly. Didn't have a single misstep on the strategy. Remained perfect on the restarts and is a well-deserved winner. And by winning this one, he locks up the outside of the front row for next month's Retro 500. Chad Peterson, your winner tonight from Darlington, as he celebrates on the front straightaway. What a drive for the driver of that number 32. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk with him. Peterson is in victory lane at the Lady in Black. Darlington Raceway. It's known as the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame.
You want to be the best. You can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that McConey Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at McConey Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, McConey Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to McConeySetupShop.com and learn why McConey Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Welcome back live to virtual Darlington Raceway and Podium Esports' continuing coverage of the Retro 500 qualified races. 10 more drivers are locked in as we take a look at tonight's full race results. Chad Peterson is in victory lane ahead of TJ Bursky and Sean Butler. We'll chat with all of those drivers in just a moment. Cole Dutton and Boyd Hogan finish inside of the top 5 this afternoon with Andrew Navarro in P6. Roswell Harlow in 7th. Jake Ham sneaks in late to steal that number 8 position ahead of Zachary Mertens 9th and Jake Balmain. Your top 10, those are your qualifiers.
You got Keenan Church down there in 11th. Then you got Jason Coe. He comes out in 12th. David Barnes, Forrest Scott, Josh Lee in the 15th position. Blake McCandless retired out there, 21 laps down in 16th. Brian Shiver is in 17th. Patrick Langley, Warren Keith, Matthew Gary Sexton, and Vernon McKinnon.
So look top to bottom at your full race results tonight from Darlington. Let's go trackside, chat with the driver who wins this race. Chad Peterson locks himself onto the front row of the Retro 500. Chad, congratulations on the win. I mean, the two-tire call seemed to be the way to go tonight, and you really dominated that strategy in most of this race.
That worked out pretty well, man. The two tires, what we've been doing for most of the official racing, and worked out here too.
Now, mid-race in this one, and just past that point, you guys are running away, some 5 seconds up on these guys. And then the tires start going for everybody. We get a yellow, and then late in that one, I mean, you didn't look quite as invincible. Butler, Bursky, Dutton, a handful of drivers kept with you until it got a bit messy in the final 10. Was that them saving a little bit of it? What do you think was the difference there? Or were you just kind of doing what you needed to do to stay just far enough ahead?
I was kind of wondering the same. I kept running what I thought was the pace I'd been running the whole time and had the same gap over Candles. And I looked up in the mirror and saw everybody was kind of sticking with me. I even asked the spotter about it, my lap time's off, or are they picking up? And I think it was just everybody figured out what was going on and the whole field was picking up pace.
What'd you learn in this? Obviously, not your first time driving these things here at Darlington, and tonight's race is obviously different with a sprint race compared to the 500-miler you'll now be in next month. But what can you take away from tonight that you could apply to the 500?
Well, versus last week, I learned I need to stay out the damn wall. That seems to work pretty well.
Always helps, right?
And yeah, it works out pretty well. And man, just keep your head on straight. It's a lot longer. What is it? September 6th. That's going to be a long time sitting there.
It'll be an exciting show. You got the front row as well. How important do you think qualifying is going to be in a race that's that long?
I think pits are going to shake things up a lot. It's hard as heck to pass, and people are not really willing to give up the inside line like they used to be. So you can get underneath a person and just get stuck because there's not a whole lot of drive off the way the torque curve is on the motor. So you're going to have to kind of fight through pit stops, and I think track position is going to make a big deal at the beginning, even to stay out of wrecks.
Put on a good show tonight. Looking forward to it in the 500, Chad. Before we let you go, sponsors, shout-outs, all those good folks. Anybody you want to say hi to?
I got Cody Dutton that was watching the whole race and spotting for us, doing fuel strategy and everything, and then the guys over at 3unit.ca. Pretty good folks.
Appreciate you sticking around and chatting with us, Chad. Again, congratulations on qualifying for the main event. We'll catch you in about a month.
Thanks.
Locked into the front row of the Retro 500, that is qualified race number 2 winner, Chad Peterson. TJ Bursky comes home second tonight from the Lady in Black, and Terry Radford's trackside with him.
Well, TJ Bursky, baby, you got P number 2, man. You had a fast hot rod in that Slim Jim Chevrolet. How'd you get through all that traffic? You had an EOL, you come to the front, you still finished P2 out of it.
Well, I'll just be honest. Wasn't my cleanest race. Made some mistakes, Driving one of the hardest cars at one of the hardest tracks, so, everything's going to be a little bit more amplified. It's a little bit harder. The set felt really good the first few laps, and then I'm pretty sure you guys saw it on the broadcast. There's just a certain point where, the right rear was gone. So I don't really know what that was all about, but, digging, just kind of ultra saving, honestly, was what I did on that last run, and that helped me. So,
well, walk me through that lap car incident right there. So you had the car right there in front of you. It kind of slowed Boyd up just a little bit, but you find your way around it. What went through your head coming out of that corner, knowing that you had to get around him just to have an opportunity to catch the leader?
I was just gonna go to his outside. I couldn't really tell what he was trying to do there. And I think he just was trying to give it to me a little bit too early. So, yeah, I don't really know what happened there. But I didn't try to dump him or anything like that. It was just he kind of stopped on the exit, and I didn't really have a place to exit. So,
I feel you on that one, man. You got any of them sponsors you want to shout out?
Shout out to the guys at Nexus, and shout out to Chad. He had it figured out today for sure. So.
Well, you're locked into the main show, and I believe you're gonna start in the P3 position, if I am mistaken here. Congratulations on P3, and we'll see you the next one.
Yeah, thank you guys.
The second place finisher this afternoon. Let's step on down to the last step on the podium tonight at in a transfer spot is Sean Butler, who has quite the journey tonight. 14 positions, Sean, to make the show. Just tell us about that journey. I know it was quite the night for that 32 car.
Certainly wasn't a dull moment at all, but glad we got the finish where we did. I kind of used qualifying as a practice session, really, to kind of get a bunch of laps under my belt, because I had a bunch of practice on the setup, and it took a bit of getting used to, but I figured if I did my best to dodge all the wrecks and make my way up, I'd be good. And got a few Darlington stripes along the way, but kept the old Wheeler Motorsports consultant Chevy clean for the most part, and able to get the podium finish, and got to be satisfied with the result for plus 14.
Yeah, anytime you end up in a transfer spot, it's a good night. Obviously, you guys didn't queue up, so had to work through the field. I was talking to Chad about the same thing from Victory Lane here in this one. I mean, obviously, this race and the pace of it a little bit different than what you'll see in the 500. That race is much longer. Did you have to approach this qualifier differently than you would have in the 500? I mean, if you're starting, it's going to be a bit better than that, but if you were starting 17th in the 500, I mean, would you have raced things differently with the more time? I mean, did the shorter distance force you to be a little bit more proactive tonight?
Yeah, because on the first run, I tried to get as many positions as I could, and I kind of had my fingers crossed open for a caution about at lap 30 or so, but we had a longer run, and I was kind of feeling it on the rear tires, so that didn't work. So I just tried to be as patient as I could. So for this race, I was pretty much trying to save the entire run after the first caution, and that benefited me. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to do the same in the 500, because you have to be so patient with this. You might lose a couple spots, when the run starts, but it's track is so abrasive and the tires wear out so much, especially the right rear in this in the setup tonight. You had to be very patient and kind of manage your tires the best you could, and they'll start coming back to you. But it's going to be a different animal in the 500, that's for sure. 123 laps in this, and kind of have a little bit of a headache after this trying to get the moves right. So 500 laps is going to be a doozy for sure.
We're looking forward to catching that one. You're in the show. Before we let you jump out of here, anybody want to say hi to what we got you?
Yeah, of course. You guys put the broadcast on. You guys always do a great job with this, of course. Like I said, Wheeler Motorsports consultant hopped on board for the Firecracker earlier this year. And Total Advantage, Windshield Deep, those guys are our associate sponsors over at Dead Zone Racing, I should say. So big shout out to all those guys, especially Dead Zone, all the work those guys put on for the Coke Series and everything. But yeah, gotta get back to the drawing board and get ready for 500, and hope for the best in that.
Step one down. Long way to go, Sean. Appreciate you sticking around and chatting with us. Congratulations on the solid result, and good luck in a couple of weeks.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
P3 finisher tonight from Darlington. A big thanks to all of our top three finishers for sticking around and talking with us post-race in this one. And I think the lessons learned from qualifier 1 stood true tonight, Terry. We saw a lot of self-mistakes. We saw some fireworks inside of the top 10, some late race drama. And now we have 20 cars of the 40-car field locked into the Retro 500. Curious your thoughts on what really was an exciting night of racing.
Oh, I mean, exactly that. It was exciting. You had a lot of slipping and sliding, had a lot of people out there hanging it on the edge. You don't want nothing no better than Darlington, South Carolina, 113-degree track temp, and they're out there slinging it. Man, it was like, I was like watching a dirt track out here, and it was no funner as a fan to call it. I love this type of racing, and these cars just put on a heck of a show.
If you had to give advice now, because we still have 2 qualifiers to go, we've seen 2 now, what would your words of wisdom be maybe to somebody tuning in who's already signed up to race next week at a qualifier, or watching this race and is thinking about it? I mean, what do we learn to the key maybe to get into the 500?
Just like I said earlier, you ain't got to be the prettiest cow in the bunch to get up there and get it. Don't worry about what that car looks like at the end. Just get it to the end. Get it in that top 10. We saw these guys. A lot of these guys had incidents, and they found their way back to the front. Boyd found his way up there. Persky found himself up there. That's all it took. A mistake took you to the transfer spot, and that's all you got to have.
That quick repair really did come in handy for a lot of drivers. Handful of them fought through adversity, and they make the show. That is it for us here tonight for qualifying race number 2. We'll be back. 2 more still to come. You're not going to want to miss any of that here on Podium. Of course, we'll be back on Monday night for more sim racing action. But until then, that'll do it for us here tonight for qualifying night number 2. On behalf of the entire team at Podium Esports, James Pike, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scarbosa, John Theodore, and everybody else behind the scenes, including our camera builder, Dougie Beard, and your broadcast team tonight. For Ryan Bauer downstairs, for Terry Radford, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate tonight's race winner, Chad Peterson. We'll be back for qualifying race number 3 next Wednesday, August the 18th, here from the virtual Darlington Raceway. That race and every race on the road to the Retro 500 can be found exclusively here on Podium Esports. Till next time, good night from in Black. Darlington Raceway, it's known as the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame,